The time's currently 5:37 a.m. on March the 3rd, 2023, and I'm finally having a chance to sit down and talk about Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I beat this game about a month ago, so I apologize if some of the details are just a little bit hazy, but I still remember the game really good because it is legitimately already in my top 5 favorite games I've ever played. Growing up, I was always a huge fan of Pirates of the Caribbean franchise and the whole age of piracy. The whole sense of adventure and the freedom, it all just seemed so exciting. So naturally, when looking into the Assassin's Creed franchise, I climbed to the top of my crow's nest and my 3-mast I have sitting in the pond out back and locked my telescope on Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Then I decided to do the always agreed upon correct thing and played the post-launch DLC Freedom Cry first. No, but in all seriousness, in the just under 7.5 hours I spent in the world of Freedom Cry, I really couldn't wait to dive into the oceans of Black Flag. I already did a review of Freedom Cry if you want to check that out, the link will be in the description, but now it's time to talk about the game's father, the Thanos to its Gamora. Black Flag is the 4th mainline installment in the Assassin's Creed franchise, released in October 2013 to critical acclaim. Many will tell you this is the crown jewel of the series, with others pinpointing it to this game as the point at which Assassin's Creed stopped being Assassin's Creed and took a turn down RPG action-adventure avenue. I cannot say a single thing about this conundrum because I have not played any other Assassin's Creed game outside of Black Flag's story and the surrounding content, so I have no clue if that's true. I'm just going to review this game based on my personal experience with it. Again, we'll touch briefly on the story, going light on spoilers and giving a general synopsis of what happens. Some of the spoilers, after writing this script, I low-key do have some heavy spoilers ahead too, so I should probably tell you that too. Then I'm going to talk about some of the characters in this game because they were extremely well done and memorable. We'll move through some of the gameplay and some of the mechanics, talk more in depth than in the Freedom Cry video on progression and the development sense, simply because there's more of it exists in this game. And of course, wrapping up with my general thoughts and enjoyment of the game, with an added suggestion on something they might have done to make the game just a little bit better. And of course, I will give the game the Skies rating. So without further ado, this is your Captain Wild Big Sky speaking. Full sail ahead, lads and ladies, to the seas of Assassin's Creed Black Flag. The game opens up with privateer and eventual pirate assassin Edward Kenway is shipwrecked on an island along with another companion. This other guy is an assassin, but not a very good one, because he got smoked by, as far as we're concerned at this point, an average privateer. L plus ratio plus cancelled plus cringe plus omega lol. I don't really remember what kicks it off, but for some reason you just chase this guy and you get into a fight and you smoke him. And then you end up obtaining secrets that the assassins and the Templars both happen to be after, because these secrets hold secrets. And this assassin that you just killed and stole the clothes off his body was actually going to turn them over to the Templars that happen to hang out in the Caribbean. That's right, you guys just killed him, but it's okay, because he was actually a traitor assassin. Don't worry about it. So now Edward possesses the said information that both the Templars and the Assassins are looking for, because it leads to a guy who knows the location of an ancient artifact called the Observatory. Whoa. An extremely old and powerful site, which I think was built by aliens, which can allow you to spy on your enemies in real time. Now, in modern context, this is super amateur because you just move a satellite or send a drone or maybe send a balloon across the Pacific Ocean. But in the time the game is set, this would be an impossible tipping of the scale to whoever controlled this device. So after killing the rogue assassin, Edward finds out about the secret meeting that he got from the information, I guess. That's how he found out. His dead counterpart was supposed to attend, so Edward chooses to take the dead man's clothes and show up to this meeting, claiming to be him, which I guess the world was a lot bigger place then, but Edward just assumed these guys had never met before and wouldn't be like, yo, why are you wearing Buddy's clothes? But no, we'll be good. No worries. They won't know. So you go to the meeting and you learn that the Templars' plan is to find the seer and take control of the observatory and use its power to exploit and blackmail world leaders and bend them under the control of the Templars. Which, if you don't know and you're new to Assassin's Creed, the Templars are the big baddies. Meanwhile, there's a band of pirates attempting to resist the growing European presence in their sacred seas. These pirates include famous figures like James Kidd, Blackbeard, Edward Thatch, Edward Teach, Edward Theach, however you want to pronounce it, Benjamin Hornigold, and they all dream of freeing the seas of the oppression of the Europeans and building a free pirate republic based on free will in the Caribbean. Because building a society based on doing whatever you want to in the moment has never gone wrong for anybody. You also meet your first mate, Adewale, pretty early on in the game, and after playing Freedom Cry with Adewale as the main character, I was super hyped to see him pop up in Black Flag. Even though I knew he was going to show up eventually, I honestly found his role in this game just a little bit disappointing. For most of the game, he functions just as Edward's right-hand man, but then he does work as a catalyst when he leaves Edward in order to pursue a different cause he feels is worth fighting for. This causes Edward, who at the time was in a real slump, to re-examine himself at a crucial point in his story and get himself back on the track. Adewale was awesome in this game, even though I feel like he could have done more and been more, like in Freedom Cry. I just wish maybe he played even more of a role where you kind of got that like brother versus the world mentality with Edward, which is sort of there but is also thrown off by the captain first mate aspect of the relationship. Throughout the game, Adewale feels more like your first officer aboard your ship than your best friend, and even after he leaves and comes back to help, it's not as much as the brother dynamic as I would have loved to see. He's still really cool though. Jumping back to our pirate band of misfits who dream of utopia, they recruit Edward to help in the cause, which he does while being pursued by colonizers under the rule of the Templars and the assassins who are trying to recover the stolen information. This is where the game sees several twists, turns, and developments. Major spoiler warning for this next part. I'll put a timestamp to skip to it if you haven't already played the game and don't want to hear all the spoilers. The Pirate Republic is established, and Edward had been recruited by an undercover assassin, Mary, going as James Kidd, that's why I coughed earlier, to help out in the cause of stopping the Templars. This takes Edward away from the Caribbean on his quest to get to the seer before the Templars do. While gone, the Republic falls to disease and disagreements and poor leadership and lack of economy, lead to its demise, and upon Edward's return, the world he helped to build is left in ruin. Hornigold has betrayed the gang for the feds. Charles Vane, another leader in the Republic, goes insane after suffering his own betrayal. And Edward Teach, Thatch, Theach, whatever you want to call it, the legendary captain of the Queen Anne's Revenge, the coolest ship name to ever exist in human history ever, is struck down in battle with the British. You see, Captain Blackbeard was trying to leave the life of piracy and crime in the past, and he was trying to escape. This event was something that you, as the player, and Edward were there to see, and it really was one of the more impactful and sad moments of the game. Seeing Blackbeard fall, and Edward's just pure sadness on his face watching his friend go down after all the adventures you do have with Blackbeard throughout the game, it was a rough moment. While Edward's gone, he tracked down the seer in Africa, but upon return the seer betrays him and he is imprisoned by the British along with Mary and another accomplice, Bonnie. Mary and Bonnie are set to be executed, but get out of it by saying they are pregnant, which I thought was just a genius fake ruse to stall time so maybe somebody would come break them out. But no, Mary really was pregnant. And this kind of has some dark implications. Given the game never really explains who the father is, obviously we hope it was consensual procreation that led to her being with child, but given the fact that she was held in a British prison cell, that seems semi-doubtful. Nonetheless, I thought this was kind of a loose end worth noting, because I kind of wondered whether it was Edward or whether it was someone else or what. Then again, I probably honestly don't really want to know the answer to that question. Some time passes, but you're broken out of the prison right as all hope seems to fade by the assassin Allfather, Tabai, whose name honestly might as well just be Chuck Norris. There's no way around it, the guy's just awesome. But what follows honestly gutted my heart. And here's another major spoiler warning. You have been warned. As you make your escape, Mary is struggling to make it, and you try to carry her, but she drops and dies in your arms on the footsteps of freedom. This was Edward's Anakin Skywalker moment. When Anakin held his mother and she passed away, powerless to stop it, and at that moment he was determined to have his revenge, much is the same with Edward in this moment. This sequence was done amazingly well, and I'm not gonna lie, I shed a little bit of a tear, and I'll own that one. What, I can't be emotional? I did. I teared up a bit. But when playing a game or reading a book or watching a movie, I always try to place myself in that character's head and how I would feel and think about like what it would feel like or how I would feel in the exact situation that the character I'm playing as or the character I'm watching or reading about is going through. And I think it has its upsides and its downs. But in this moment, I was trying to imagine myself holding a close friend I'm trying to save but can't do anything but watch their life slip away before my eyes. And I felt it. It was deep and it was emotional and I loved it. I thought it was great and I shed a tear. I own it. I think another reason why I possibly felt this moment or moments like this in other stories so powerfully is because my father raised me in that women are precious and it's your duty to protect them. And I'm not saying that they can't protect themselves, only that it's your duty to also do what you can to protect and preserve their life. So whenever I see a man come up short in an attempt to save/protect a woman he cares about, it obviously is an extremely emotional moment. That always gets me in the feels, man. Edward then goes on his Anakin-style Tusken Raider slaughter binge, hunting down and killing the Templars and colonial leaders of the Caribbean, eventually getting back to the Seer and himself in a final showdown at the observatory. It's also after Mary's death that Al-Tabai, oh, you're so awesome, dude, convinces Edward to join the assassins as a brother, which he accepts, making Edward Kenway on the back half of the game finally a real assassin versus just a guy that killed an assassin and stole his clothes and now pretends to be an assassin. There's a couple of different boss fights in this game. I found the most memorable to be the showdown with Loreno Torres, who's the governor of Cuba and a knight of the Order of Santiago, who's just basically presented in the game as the Mountain from Game of Thrones. If you've ever seen that show, he is literally the Mountain. And I thought his boss battle was both fun and had a degree of difficulty, and was also really engaging. You had to pick the right moments when to shoot, and you confront him in this fort, and he has goons that come down and attack you. It's somewhat of your video game boss battle formula, but the fact that it's like pirates and he looked like the Mountain from Game of Thrones, I just found it really, really epic. Other examples of boss fights and final confrontations come up as you have to track down their ships and attack their ships and then kill them, or you have to track them down on various islands and kill them. And it's not too bad, but it's just like your standard Assassin's Creed kills pretty much, and it doesn't really register as anywhere near as memorable as the Loreno Torres fight. The final confrontation at the observatory I found extremely undersatisfying. Not only is the final boss locked behind a bunch of really, really stupid and frustrating parkour, but when you do kill him, you just jump on him from above, instantly landing an air assassination. No epic boss battle, no epic fight, no blood, nothing. Just like a drop from high altitude and a cheap kill like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. What an L, dude. After this takes place, Edward receives a letter informing him that his wife in England has sadly passed away, and that his daughter will be arriving soon to be taken into his care. Now, this is sad in its own breath because Edward's whole point of going on this whole adventure at the beginning of the game was to find riches for him and his family, and his unborn daughter. So why this game chooses to be such a tearjerker, I have no idea. But it's really hitting you in every spot it hurts. You lose your brother, you lose your friend / girl that you love / something and Mary, you lose your wife in England. So yeah, it's a real rough ride. So now that we're all properly sad, after one last chat with Bonnie, who's pretty much the only person left from your old life that's still alive, and you have one last final chat with her and she sings a sad song, you stroll down to the docks to meet your daughter and to sail off into the sunset as the credits roll and you ride on your Black Pearl ripoff of a ship, the Jackdaw. And there goes another tear. Now I know what you're saying to yourself. Skies, are you faded? Why did you just call the Jackdaw a ripoff of the Black Pearl? It's totally unique and looks completely different, although you can make it look identical to the Black Pearl in the Harbor Master by turning the sails black and the hull. You see, in reality, most pirates went through multiple ships during their careers. Even Blackbeard didn't always pull up drowning in Riz on the Queen Anne's Revenge. Oftentimes it was a level up game. If you captured a better ship, or perhaps a ship in better condition, you would simply swap all your gear and your crew over to that ship. This mechanic could have been implemented into this game. The ability to buy, capture, / build a variety of ships and then upgrading them according to their strong suits, maybe even the ability to stash a ship in a cove, or something for use later if you need something like a faster ship build, or something more heavily armored, or a gunship, depending on the situation and what it calls for. I think this would have been really cool, adding in unique dynamics and more reason to grind out naval battles or explore the seas to find desired ship types to take over as a captain. And also, like, so many just builds, and you could have trees, and I'm probably thinking about this too much. Instead, they went with one ship for one pirate protagonist, just like Jack Sparrow has one ship, the Black Pearl. Come on, guys. I'm not gonna lie though, since it was an option, I definitely did rock my ship the entire time looking straight up like it was the Black Pearl. Don't get me wrong, the Jackdaw is legendary in its own right, but you could have done more to make your game deeper is all I'm saying with the whole ship mechanic. While we're on the subject of characters such as the Jackdaw, this is a great time to transition to talk about some other characters. First, there's Edward Kenway, who's every kid's dream of a swashbuckling privateer. Now, him being the main character, I think he was done really well. He's relatable and doesn't always make the best choice, but always tries to make the best of every opportunity. And the character makes it extremely easy to insert yourself into his role without ever being like, yo, what am I doing here? Like, this character constantly made the same choice I think most people would have realistically made given the same situation. And I know that was the case for me personally. And it just made it all feel so real and definitely helped with the immersion. And I think Edward Kenway is by far one of my favorite video game protagonists up to the date, with my boy Franklin from GTA 5 up there. Love you, Franklin. Then there's Edward Teach, and I thought they also did Blackbeard really well. You see, the game takes place over a 7-year span, if I remember correctly, and when you first encounter this legend, I didn't even recognize him until he introduced himself as Edward Teach, and then I was like, oh wow, this is Captain Blackbeard. What's kind of cool is you see him evolve throughout the game into this legendary character we all love and cherish from the old pirate stories. And by the end of the game, his historically accurate death off the east coast of the United States, far north of the Caribbean, was a really cool added adventure into the game. Edward was there, and he saw Blackbeard fall, and what made it more emotional is that it was at this point that it really was one of the first of Edward's friends to die. And yeah, you feel the impact, and you really do feel sad when you see him go down. Mary, aka James Kidd, was by far my favorite side character. The second you meet her, it's just 100% swag. And not only that, morally, she's one of the more stand-up characters and constantly encourages Edward to do the right thing, even when he's tempted with other options that may also seem attractive. There's 2 huge reveals with this character, and both are done extremely well. Firstly, it is revealed that James Kidd is a member of the Assassins. She reveals that she didn't kill you because the assassin you as Kenway killed was a traitor to the Order, and she also is the one that really recruits Edward and sends him on the path that leads him to joining the Order. Her death acts as a real catalyst for him to make this final decision when asked about it by Al-Tabai. The second big reveal with this character is that James Kidd isn't actually James, but is Mary, and is a woman pretending to be a man. So I had my suspicions throughout the game. The voice is a slight tell-off. She sounds kind of feminine throughout the first half of the game. But of course, it's 2023, and we're not assuming genders, so I didn't say anything to my chat. But when she came out, so to speak, it was kind of like, I knew it moment for me. But I still think this reveal was really well done for multiple reasons. But I'll go into a little bit of depth in one of them. So often when our modern stories try to give you that strong female character, they break historical accuracy to do it. The unfortunate truth is that in the past, women didn't always have the same opportunities or social place as men did. This was wrong, and this is why here in the West, we have corrected this foolishness and now do our best to provide equal opportunity to everyone. Sadly, some places in this world still do not give women the rights they deserve. Afghanistan. But in Black Flag, this game gives you a strong female character that doesn't break your social norms of the past, adding to the immersion. Mary Read is awesome as both herself and James Kidd. It was not at all uncommon for the time for a woman that would dress up as a man just to have the same basic opportunity like being a member of a ship's crew, and honestly just so many opportunities and jobs that I couldn't even list them all. It would take all day. When she fights, she can definitely hold her own, and she makes choices throughout the game that doesn't make her come off as some perfect person, just a wise one, with pure intentions, and I thought that was done extremely well with this character. 12 out of 10 character writing on this one, guys. Her death was the saddest moment of my playthrough, not only because she had been my favorite side character the whole game, but also because you can really feel Edward's pain as he watches her fade away, powerless to stop his friend. And at this point in the game, honestly, I'll say it, almost Mentor from passing away in his arms, and it is really sad. All the characters in this game are really well done, or done all right to satisfaction. The villains aren't too memorable, besides Laura Torres. I know that's not how you're supposed to say his name, but I've really given up trying to pronounce it correctly. The only reason, though, I think he stood out was because he literally was the Mountain from Game of Thrones, like I said earlier when I talked about him, and his boss fight was just the best out of all of them. Coolest setting, coolest action, just awesome. One thing you'll notice I didn't even touch on was the real world story, and I'll put this bold and clear. It's dumb and I don't care. I wanted to be a pirate. I'm so sick of corporations, bro. We get it. They're all evil. Now shell out another $25 to Jeff Bezos. Let's talk about gameplay and mechanics. The game works just like Freedom Cry, which was kind of nice, because going in, I already understood the combat system, the parkour system, the different gadgets and what they did, and the sailing system. I already had it down. By the time I hit the seas of the Caribbean, I was already a master sailor, and I kind of liked that already, knowing how to play the game before actually playing it. It just made me really comfortable with the gameplay, and I wasn't so focused on, like, what am I doing, how do I do this, what does this button do, and I was just more focused on the story and what was happening in the environment around me. Love that for me. So instead of your blunderbuss, you get pistols, and it starts as 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. And I thought, again, great way of shaping the game around historical accuracy. Obviously, the guns of this time were one-shot trips to hell or heaven, then taking a significant amount of time to reload. So in order to give the player multiple shots, they introduced this chain mechanic, when after unlocking multiple pistols, Edwards can let off 4 rounds at a time without reloading, which is so fun, and provides some of the most amazing scenes of the game. Seeing Edward spin and duck as he pulls pistol after pistol and fires them was just epic. And I really use the pistols a whole lot. Instead of a machete, you get swords, which are, cool enough. Also, all of your gadgets make a return. Your smoke bombs, your rope, your darts. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail here. I did review all of the gadgets and talk about them a little bit more in my Freedom Cry review. If you do want to check that out, make sure you check the link in the description. So, I'm going to complain about the same thing I complained about in my Freedom Cry video, and that is the lack of options when it comes to the weaponry. I was going through the game essentially getting every single chest and trying to collect the most currency possible. So very early on in my playthrough, I had the best set of pistols and the best set of swords, and there was no reason to try out any of the others really. Several sets were more efficient in particular categories such as stun or damage, but overall they were nowhere near as good as the pair I had, so I really saw no real reason to buy them, and so the shop kind of felt empty and had no real reason to grind for any of the gear in there, which I admit is kind of a disappointment. There were several times on multiple occasions I found myself going into the shop being like, ooh, I have a lot of money. What can I buy? And then being reminded, oh, wait, I already have the best stuff. I can't buy anything. I just think including even more options with more variation would have been cool and well welcome to me. Like I said, I feel like it's really obtainable to get the best stuff really early on in this game. And then you just spend all your money on the Jackdaw. Speaking of the Jackdaw, let's talk about sailing and sailing in this game. It's the same as it is in Freedom Cry. Thus, I feel the exact same way. I thought it was amazing. The sailing in this game is perfect, and it's not too overcomplicated, but it still gives you the feeling that you are in command of a 1715 sailing ship, and it feels every bit as thrilling and dangerous. You know how many times I panicked because my ship was about to hit an island or a sand barge? Man, that's stressful. To summarize what I said in that other video pretty quickly, rogue waves are terrifying and really do add a variation of Poseidon to the game. There were several times during my playthrough, my ship was sunk by a rogue wave that just crept on me mid-fight with like 3 ships. Like, bruh. But honestly, don't take that as a complaint because I thought the rogue waves were really, really cool and it added a cool element of the ocean, so that's not a complaint. It was fine. The tornadoes, however, in this game, I did find they were just really annoying and somewhat unnecessary. One thing I thought was done well was the power balance of the Jackdaw. When first starting the game, you can't just attack any ship you see. You have to carefully pick your targets, and when attacking stronger ships, be sure to maneuver your ship towards the front or back where the least amount of damage can be inflicted from their cannons. Preferably the back because these captains are crazy. They will just full on ram your ship. But as the game goes on and you upgrade your ship with money, wood, cloth, and metal, your ship does get stronger, and you can more comfortably attack stronger ships and even groups of ships. I never felt like it was overdone too early, and it was really only at the end of the game I really felt like the Jackdaw became the unsinkable ship only the Titanic could dream of being. That being said, you can still find yourself in an engagement with multiple ships, a rogue wave, maybe even one of the bigger treasure ships found around the map, and you can still find yourself in a situation where you might get sunk. The various islands make up for plenty of stuff to do around the map, and tons of immersion. You can go around collecting different sea shanties and finding different Mayan ruins to eventually unlock a super suit of assassin armor. There's just a lot you can do, and there's many more options than were available in Freedom Cry, so for me jumping into this world, it was pretty awesome. Some standouts are Havana, of course. Havana, no, I'm not. And this place was beautiful, and I loved my time here. There was a whole lot to do here, and it really felt like a cool environment. Nassau is the pirate home and a safe haven, which kind of becomes a dump and then is nice at the end again. And then Kingston, and of course, Isle Providencia. I didn't pronounce that correctly. Providencia. Anyway, the home of the final encounter. Bonus commentary. I will add in there that I bought all the DLC islands because I happened to catch them on sale, and I bought pretty much all of the Black Flag DLC, besides Freedom Cry, for less than $15. And I was slightly disappointed with the DLC islands. I found them to be more of a show up, you kill some bad guys, you collect your DLC loot out of your special chests, and then you dip. And that's it. You have no reason to go back to that island. And I honestly think they could have managed to implement one small quest per island, which would have made it feel more worth the money and much cooler. The fashion, though, that was pretty awesome. I liked the outfits that were available in the DLC, although I found the weapons, again, pointless. I didn't need them. Plantations make a return, but in Black Flag, instead of freeing the slaves, your goal is to find and kill the keykeeper, to break into the storehouse and rob the plantation. These replenish, and this was a cool mechanic and made a steady location to find resources such as cloth, metal, wood, without having to go out sailing and trying to find a ship and plundering. Although sailing and plundering was an absolute thrill. Fishing is an alright system. I wasn't a major fan, to be honest, and I found it more tedious than enjoyable, although the satisfaction of finally taking down a whale was a rush. I attempted a few early on and just had my tiny little boat wrecked like a Somalian pirate speedboat trying to take on a French warship. So I grinded some money out and fully maxed it out before attempting to go catch a fish again. After maxing my ammo and armor, I was able to execute this feature with like a little bit of a greater ease, but I still didn't really love this whole thing. The diving bell is also in Black Flag, of course, and to be honest, the whole diving thing never really even interests me going back to Freedom Cry. I found it to just be annoying to be completely vulnerable to shark attacks with your only defense being able to swim away and hide. Come on, I grew up playing Call of Duty in a bunch of different FPSs. I don't want to be defenseless in a video game, it's literally not in my psyche. Diving and fishing were arguably my least two favorite features of this game. I found hunting a much more enjoyable experience. Seeing all the different wildlife was really cool. I loved watching Animal Planet as a kid, and I always have had a fascination with other creatures on this earth. So I enjoyed seeing the different animals on the various islands and how they behaved. The way they handled the progression system with this mechanic too, I found far less frustrating than chasing whales at speedboat speeds and hucking spears at it. This is a great time to transition into talking about the progression of the game, which I feel was executed extremely well in Black Flag. I already touched on how well the ship power curve is done, but now let's talk about Edward himself. And I'm not talking about pistols and swords, I'm talking about his health and his various ammo pouches and abilities. I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, hold on, you just complained about the fishing system, which is part of Edward's progression system, and then said it was really well done. Let me explain. The fishing system is really frustrating, but the power curve for Edward, much like the Jackdaw, is executed extremely well in this game. You do have to work for your upgrades, but when I played the game, I just kind of upgraded on opportunity whenever I felt like the timing was right, and I think I didn't really put a lot of thought into it while I was playing the game. It was just a subconscious feeling when I felt like it was time to level up. My brain didn't even register it. And I think this is because of how well they guide you through the game and onto the various islands, which provide the proper animals and whales to be able to upgrade your armor and your health and your various pouches. And it just occurred to me while recording this that I am talking in this whole section as if you've already played the game. Well, for those that have made it to this point in the video and haven't played the game, fishing, you collect certain materials to be able to upgrade your gear. Same with hunting. Sometimes you need both. At the beginning of the game, you're not really Vin Diesel. You have one pistol, and you really got to be careful when you attract too much attention to yourself. Otherwise, you're going to be swamped by enemies far stronger than you, and they will teach you about not being a good assassin. But as the game goes on, you slowly get stronger, perfectly in tune with the story. I barely even noticed it, and I think this game deserves a lot of credit for the fact how the progression in the story lined up very well. By the end of the game, I was taking on 10 to 20 troops, and I wasn't really even worried about being killed. But the thing is, it felt appropriate for Edward's character and the development he's gone through and where he's at in his journey. Yeah, feels like it was appropriate time to be able to take on 20 British soldiers and smoke them all. Speaking of smoke, disclaimer, once unlocking the smoke bombs, I definitely cheesed this mechanic harder than the Cheez-It that woke up feeling the cheesiest, coach. By the end of his road, Edward's a stud, and he started as a young man trying to find some fame and some fortune, and at the end of it, he's an absolute unit that sailed some tough seas, but he carries on for all the ones that never got to set sail again. Now this video has been extremely long, so I think it's time we should recap the end of the game, slap the final score on it, and sail out of here ourselves. After speaking with Bonnie and meeting your daughter for the first time, Bonnie picks up her guitar and starts playing the oh-so-perfect song Parting Glass. As Edward sets sails for England, and the sun sets on the Caribbean, a beautiful female voice sings the legendary tune with an amazing mix, and honestly it touched me. Such a beautiful way to end such a great experience. The game does let you free roam after, which is cool, so you can wrap up anything you missed. That's going to do it all for Black Flag, though. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. It'd be awesome to hit 25 subs this week. Yeah, we'll make that a little bit of a goal. I give Black Flag a 10 out of 10. This was an incredible game, and I will definitely be playing more Assassin's Creed. Let me know down below whether I should play Assassin's Creed 3, Syndicate, or Unity next, which is the 3 other titles I currently own. If you don't already know, I've bought a lot of video games over the years, and I haven't played most of them, so I'm trying to not allow myself to buy too many new games until I complete all the games I currently own on both Xbox and PlayStation. I'm going to be making reviews on most of the games, so if you want to follow along on that journey, make sure you hit that sub button and follow me over on Twitch, where I stream most of my gameplay no matter what I'm playing or how bad I'm doing. This is Sky signing out. Peace out.